episode 6 of the Two Jasons. Today, in part one, we're going to be talking about the 40th anniversary of that classic album from Def Leppard, 1983's Pyromania. How big of a Def Leppard fan are you, Jason?
I was into them very early on. My name is Jason, and I'm a child of the 80s.
So, that says it all.
Born in the 70s or the 70 or something.
And now
But
let me ask you, in regards
I was loving
to,
this
go
was the
ahead.
album that really broke it up for me. I mean, broke it open wide was Pyromania. I mean, you couldn't get away from Rock of Ages, Photograph. Oh my God. Huge Def Leppard fan. Finally got to see them on the Hysteria in the Round tour in
Wow, wow.
Las Vegas.
That was in their prime, in their prime. And this album is it is huge for the fact that if you go back to the very first two Leopard albums, they were much more of a metal band, and then
Yeah.
and they get with Mutt Lange, and he kind of polishes up their sound. As a Def Leppard fan at that time, when you heard this album for the first time, what did you think of? Okay, they're changing their sound a little bit here.
It's all right because honestly, I kind of started here and went backwards and forwards, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, sure, sure.
yeah, I did actually. I dug it. I mean, this was the sound that I identify with.
Sure.
So then I went backwards and I heard the raw stuff. But for me, it's like finding a great band and then you go back and hear their demos, or like if it was Metallica, it would be like No Life to Leather or something,
Yeah, yeah.
The other stuff, I think like they were just finding their footing. And I think the album that preceded this, High and Dry, was a really good preview of what was to come in their relationship with Mutt, since he actually produced
Sure,
that one.
sure. And the interesting thing about this album is this was the very last album to feature original guitarist Pete Willis, which he does not play all the guitar tracks on here.
Right.
Once they decided they were going to get rid of him, and they decided they were going to go with Phil Collin, he was brought in to not even play on the whole album. Just he played the parts that Pete didn't get to record.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. I mean, the band was going to be what they're going to be. Phil Collin was clearly meant to be in Def Leppard. But funny enough, did you know that if I read it right, a pre Def Leppard Phil Collin, what was the name of the band that he was in?
Girl.
When he was still in Girl, he auditioned for Iron Maiden to replace Adrian Smith when Adrian left the band.
Interesting, because you know what I'm thinking. I had just
Adrian Smith
yeah,
auditioned for Def Leppard when Steve Clark died.
yeah.
So in a parallel universe where Adrian Smith is in Def Leppard and Phil Collin is in Iron Maiden.
It's almost like when Jason Newsted left Metallica and they got Robert Trujillo, and then he went over to Ozzy's band. Same type of situation.
That was yeah, but that was more of like Sharon just going, well, you know what I think we ought to do, Ozzy.
Yeah.
Hey, Ozzy, we want to get you. They took your bass player. Let's take their bass. Sharon, the bass player, right? Sharon.
Yeah, and the other thing about this album is they were all of a sudden. I mean, they put Def Leppard really put Sheffield, England, on the map, because before you had bands coming out of London, England, you had like Sabbath coming and Priest coming out of Birmingham, but until Def Leppard, nobody had ever heard of Sheffield, England.
And they were a British band through and through, and they made no bones about it. They wore it on their sleeve, or in the case of their drummer, his shorts.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. And that's what I was reading. It says Pyromania was a shift from the band's traditional heavy metal sound, and it was on this very album where Def Leppard first moved to its more radio-friendly commercial hard rock pop sound that they are so known for these days. So that album would really, kind of like we talked in past episodes, like with Alice Cooper's Love It to Death, this album would really define from that point on who Def Leppard was.
Yeah, that layered sound, that whole thing. And it really, Mutt Lange, the producer, can't be overstated. And that was his perfecting his technique. and I think he reached the zenith of it on their next album, Hysteria. But you know what? I want to bring up a point while we're talking about him. And this is a theory I've been working on over the years. And I'm going to challenge you to do something
Sure, sure.
to see if you hear it like I hear it. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Now, Bryan Adams, let's talk about cuts like a knife.
Sure, sure.
Think about it in your head. Cuts like a knife, but it feels so right. Right? You know, a photograph. It's the same vocal approach, same layered production sound, but just one is more pop EQ'd, the other one is more hard rock EQ'd, but it's the exact same vocal approach because same producer.
Wow.
If you honestly didn't know who Def Leppard was, okay, and thinking of all the stuff over the years that we've heard, they've tried a lot of different styles within their genre of hard rock. They've like, I'll be 2 steps behind, you know, there's ballads and stuff, right? So think about them doing a lighter, kind of more acoustic-y ballad, right? Now, when you listen to anything off the Cuts Like a Knife album, okay, close your eyes and picture it, Joe Elliott singing that song. You can picture it. It's the same vocal technique, just a different EQ of the sound. Same raspiness, same technique. And I say it's because Mutt Lange even had a hand in shaping their vocals.
Sure, sure. I mean, it's funny you say that because I heard an interview Joe Elliott recently did where he talked about that he thinks Bryan Adams sounds a lot like Def Leppard, you know, him specifically.
I'm telling you, it's the same thing. It's Mutt Lange. And I think it was maybe Mutt going to Bryan Adams and going, hey, man, we could really, you know, let's try and do this for you, you know? So it's like he has the same type of approach as a producer, just like, okay, that's going to be the pop version of what I do. That'll be the hard rock version of what I do. AC/DC will be the really raw hard rock version of what I do, you know, because he did Back in Black.
And then, you know, years later, he married Shania Twain, the Queen of Country, and he produced her. And that was the point he quit working with Def Leppard.
But you can still hear his influence in that. He's a very identifiable producer. If you know what you're listening to, he's very identifiable in a good way too.
And even I've heard guys talk over years about Hysteria. You know, he did that as well. And like Joe Elliott says, you know, they were working on the album for years, and Rick Allen had his accent, and they were going through all that. And he said, like, Pour Some Sugar on Me was the very last thing they recorded for the album. It was like something he was diddling away with on the guitar. And Mutt Lange said, "What's that?" And that was the song that broke the album.
Yep. And I remember that was I saw them finally on that tour, and I've seen them a time or two since then, and just an amazing band, man. Amazing band.
And Leppard's one of those bands.
The crew tour with them, but c'est la vie. I've seen both bands individually.
Yeah. I mean, I did go to that tour, and what I thought was cool about it is both bands played like an equal amount of songs. It was like seeing, that's exactly what it was, 2 headlining.
Well, they pop every night like Roth and Hagar did, except without all the bitching back and forth.
And I got to say, I love Motley Crue and everything, but I do think of the 2 bands that night. Leppard, you know, just they shine, you know, they outshined the Crue. Yeah.
And we all know why. And I'm not gonna cast versions, but you know, I really wish, you know, I don't know, the vocal thing, you know, it is what it is. I'm a big Motley Crue fan, but the last time I saw them was when they did a co-headlining tour with Kiss.
Yeah. And, you know, even all the stuff going around about the vocals, I mean, part of it is, you know, Vince Neil was never the greatest singer in the world, but his voice, you know, in the early days, his voice worked for Motley Crue. And,
well, at least he could sing all the words, and that's half.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of people, well, especially Vince, let's be honest, a lot of his damage to his voice got to be, you know, all the alcohol and stuff. And
well, to be honest, also he's still a good showman.
Sure.
A good show. He finally shed a couple of pounds, and he's got a sense of style. He's a good front man. So you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. And I think like if I was going to go see Motley Crue,
Do you go to see Pavarotti or do you go to see the show?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like Kiss. You know
yeah,
what? If anyone is thinking of not going to see Kiss or Crew, if they're a fan of the band, let's say,
yeah.
and you're not going because of the vocals of Vince or in Kiss's case, Paul Stanley, I would say this: go. Just go, because when you go there, it's gonna sound great. You're not gonna hear all that crap that you're seeing on the internet. And we got one more time around the sun with these guys, and
Especially Kiss, yeah, it's
yeah,
going to be it. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, although I will say, I think John Five put a whole lot of new life in the Motley Crue, and I can't wait to hear the new songs that they've recorded with him that they're about to come out with.
yeah,
I
you
think
and me both.
we
Yeah,
already know what it's going to sound like because
yeah.
we have songs from The Dirt, the movie soundtrack, and those were all recorded from what I understand.
And I've heard Nikki and John Five being quoted as saying it kind of to their ears that sounds like "Shout at the Devil" but heavier. So if that's
But
yeah,
yeah, but that's come on, that's of course they're going to say that. That's like Kiss. Every album
sounds like
since
Destroyer.
everybody, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Which I see over your shoulder.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a poster for Marvel Comics.
No, I'm talking about the one on your door.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Destroyer. That's cool. Yeah, 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 yeah. So tell us what's the story with the axe here.
Well, that is the axe bass for our bass player in Kissed Alive.
Wow.
We have a Gene Simmons axe bass court, right? So
Yeah.
Gene Simmons right there, Gene Simmons.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Right? And that is our bass. Don't tell my bass player I'm playing with it. He keeps it here at my house because he lives in Northern California. So we get together for band stuff, but he keeps his equipment here in my studio. So
Sure.
I have his bass. So, don't tell him that I was playing it. I don't even know. See, you can tell I'm not a bass player. I don't even know how to hold the damn thing.
Although you help the bass player keep that rhythm sound down, you keep it in the pocket.
Yes, I'll do War Machine. That's right. I can do that, right? Yeah. Right?
Right, right. Yeah.
There we go.
Jason, finishing talking up about Pyromania, the reason that album was so huge besides my Lang is that was coming out right around MTV was new, and of course Def Leppard was played
They
heavily
were on
MTV.
the vanguard of that movement.
Yeah.
I mean, think of the track listing.
Yeah.
There isn't really any filler on this whole damn album. And by the way, Mutt Lang is listed as a co-writer on every song on the album. Every single one.
He's very much like Bob Ezrin in that way. That a lot of album
Bob
producers.
Rock.
Yeah.
Bob Rock is like that too. They get in there and they help you write the songs. But you have Rock Till You Drop, Photograph, Stage Fright, Too Late for Love, Die Hard the Hunter, Foolin', Rock of Ages. Now here's when you know it's a kick-ass album. Rock of Ages became an anthem for a generation, and it's not even the lead-off track. Back in the days of albums, vinyl albums.
Yeah.
It's not even on side one. That's how great of an album is. Rock of Ages, Coming Under Fire, Action Not Words, and closes it out with Billy's Got a Gun.
There you go. Yeah, and and that's the thing, like you said, Rock of Ages, even as we're talking, it pops in my head. You got the Rock of Ages musical. They took the title of a Def Leppard song. Yep. They created a musical about the 80s rock scene.
Yeah, well, they have a themed kind of a tribute show to that era out in Vegas. Yeah. It's awesome. I mean,
and they have a lot of the different 80s guys,
cycling in and out of that, guest starring. Yeah. And did you know, obviously I know you know, but for those people out there that don't know, the last 56 seconds of track 10 following, so track 10, the last song is Billy's Got a Gun. I don't know why. I just have to say that. I can't say Billy's got a gun.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Billy's got a gun. It's sort of like when you say Slayer, you don't say Slayer, you say
Okay,
Slayer.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So the last 56 seconds, the last minute or so after the song Billy's Got a Gun is a hidden track. It's a hidden track called The March of the Wooden Zombies.
And that's probably why I know years later, like, well, not years later, but when they released Hysteria, every time they released a single, they'd have like a special B-side,
Yeah.
and they released Billy's Got a Gun as a special B-side on one of those singles, and so a lot of people aren't even aware it's on that album, like you said.
Yep. I remember also, an anecdotal story about this album, because signature albums, just especially ones that come to define a generation, also can define times in your life personally. And so when you think of that album, you think of things that were happening around that time. Like, I think of walking the streets of El Cajon, California,
Wow.
maybe less than 5 years after I migrated out here with my family from Niagara Falls, New York. Still kind of wandering around out here going, where the hell am I? I came from a very economically depressed blue collar Niagara Falls, New York, where you could buy the house I grew up in for maybe 70 grand. Okay?
Wow, wow.
A lot of houses boarded up. We were 10 minutes away from a toxic waste dump called Love Canal. I mean, just, and then to come out to palm trees and sunshine in Southern California.
Yeah.
I remember the first slang that I adopted from California speak was radical. Dude, it's rad, man. It's radical, dude. Radical.
Valley Girl, yeah.
Totally. Valley Girl, bro. I'll tell you, man. Like, gag me, bro. It's
gag me with radical, dude.
I sort of watched hang out with skaters, bro, and it was like radical, man. And then I found the metalheads, and then I was home, But it was crazy. So I remember there was this girl in the apartment complex. My mom and dad were the managers. Okay. So, everybody was nice to me. Even the people that were jerks in the apartments or that would argue with their wives or husbands, they would still be nice to me when I would show up to give them a letter. Knock on the door. Who the hell's at my door? It's Jason, Nancy's son. Oh, yeah. Hey, hi. How you doing?
Yeah.
So there was this girl that I used to walk to the park with. All right. She wasn't my girlfriend. Yeah. She was just my friend because I was scared shitless of her father. Her father, they were from Canada.
Wow.
And her father was a freshly retired professional boxer whose arms were bigger than my damn thighs.
Wow.
Ridiculous, this guy. So I was never nothing more than a friend with his daughter. She was kind of pushy too. She was, when you grow up the child of somebody that big and tough, what are you going to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so maybe she was walking me to the park.
There you go.
I wasn't walking her. She was looking out for me, right?
Yeah.
But I remember stuff like that. I remember like walking to the park and listening to that. And she developed a freakish obsession with this band. She would wear, like, once this album came out, the buttons. Remember everybody was wearing buttons in the 80s?
Oh, yeah.
All the different buttons.
And the Levi jackets. Yeah.
She was in love with their bass player, Rick Savage.
Wow.
So, yeah, I remember that. And then I kind of got tired of hearing about the bass player from Def Leppard. And that was about that. I found some real friends.
And you became a drummer, right?
Well, that didn't happen actually to my 20s. I didn't actually start playing drums till I was 24. True story.
Amazing. Wow. And look at you now.
And it was by accident, honestly.
Yeah.
I was always interested in music. When I was a teenager, I thought I was going to learn to play guitar. Well, earlier than that, let me back up. My mother was a pianist. She played piano in the church choir, and then she formed a gospel trio and would tour around churches in upstate New York.
Yeah.
And since I was too young to stay home, I would have to go with. And so, she tried to teach me how to play piano. Didn't work. I can't do it. I can't chew gum and walk, let alone learn to read music. Yeah. And so somewhere in high school, I bought a used guitar from a pawn shop because I thought I was going to play guitar. I knew I was going to do something with music. I just didn't know what.
Yeah.
Because I was always just such a fan in music. Like, I was like a savant with music trivia and stuff. Just people were like, "Oh God, him again," that thing, right? So I thought I was going to play guitar. Couldn't learn to play guitar, so I gave up and I thought, well, maybe I'll just start taking radio classes and I'll be a DJ because I know
Yeah,
all this musical
why
trivia.
not?
I like
Yeah.
playing music. Maybe that's what I'm going to do. And then one day I was working nights at a Pizza Hut, right? And you got the assembly line,
Oh,
and you
sure, sure. Yeah,
the with all the little compartments with the toppings for the pizza, and
sure.
you put the dough and so they got these metal lids, right? So I was always like just always like beating on the metal lids while I was making the pizza. I was
Wow.
always, whether there was music playing in the kitchen or not, it was always playing in my head,
Yeah,
voices, music, something, right?
yeah.
So there was this gal that was working next to me, and she would always yeah, barely tolerate it. One night she just went off on me. She puts down her apron. She turns to me and says, "Look, okay, I'm tired of hearing that. There's a studio in Escondido, which is like the next town over from where we were working.
Yeah.
There's a studio in Escondido called DML Drums or DML Studios. Do you play drums?" I'm like, "No, I've never played a musical instrument, really." She goes, "Well, you should play drums because you actually have rhythm. So here's what you should do, actually.
Wow.
Go to this studio, and for $10 an hour, mind you, this was,
Years
the
ago.
90s, this was the 90s, but she goes, for $10 an hour, you can go rent one of their rehearsal rooms. They'll set up a drum set for you. Okay.
Wow.
You can bring your music in there, plug it in, you can listen to it, play drums along to it, and you can stop driving me crazy.
Wow. Just
Go
think.
there and
Wow.
get it out of your system because you're driving me nuts working with you on this pizza line every night. I said,
What a,
"Oh,
what a pivotal moment. I mean,
first of all, I'm sorry.
yeah.
Second of all, actually, that sounds like fun." So a couple days after she reamed me out, I went. Her name was Julie. I forget what her last name was, but Julie, if you're watching, I know you're not, but if you are, thank
Thanks.
you. You have provided me with a whole new life.
I mean,
So
Jason,
anyway,
just think what a pivotal moment in your life. I mean, had you never gotten that job at Pizza, never met that girl, I mean, who knows?
right?
Yeah.
And she was a drummer. So
So she knows. Yeah.
yeah. So I went. I went to the studio, and I remember I took a little boom box and
Yeah.
had a cassette player. I was listening to cassettes, man. And so I did that, and it was fun. I did it for like an hour, and then the
Wow.
week after that, I did it again. I did it 4 weeks in a row. Okay, and after the fourth week, I came home and told my then wife. I said, "Hey, you know what? I'm buying a drum set." She goes, "Why?" I said, "Because I'm a drummer." And it was just that, and I was off to the races. I started making up for lost time
Yeah.
with no delay, man. And within a year, I was in my first band, and it was off to the races after that, man. And
Yeah.
I've been having fun ever since.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, I got tired of like talking on the mic, and my singers got tired of me talking on the mic.
Yeah.
So he says, "If you think you could talk to the crowd better, why don't you go and sing?"
You were kind of a Bobby Blotzer of a band, huh?
So after a while, that's when I started making my own solo bands, and I sing in my solo bands,
Yeah.
and then I drum in my real band.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool.
Like,
And
for instance, my drumming band is Kissed Alive, as you know, a
yeah.
tribute to Kiss. But did you know that I've been up to some secret stuff lately? I know you know
Van
about.
Halen tribute, I hear. Any truth to that?
Well, there is a rumor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I suppose I can maybe confirm or deny that there has been a Van Halen. I don't even want to call it a tribute band. You know what? Let's put it this way. Have you seen the shows like a guy like Mitch Malloy was doing
Sure.
with
Sure.
his Van Halen experience, right?
Yeah.
Or let's say Jason Bonham with his Led Zeppelin experience.
Sure. Sure.
Where it's an evening of the music and it's a celebration, but nobody's wearing like David Lee Roth leotards. You just go up there looking badass and just do the best possible version of those songs.
And you're going to cover all eras of a band, correct?
Let's put it this way. There's a lot of old school Roth. But then again, you come to our show, you might hear me say something like, Come on, baby, finish what you started.
Oh, there you
Oh,
go. Yeah, yeah,
why can't this be love?
yeah.
So, we can have some fun. And I can also confirm something you don't know about yet.
Okay,
So now
okay.
you're going to hear two pieces of
Great,
surprise.
great.
One is um, that's the one. The other
Yeah.
one is there's a Black Crows tribute being assembled right now. I am restarting a tribute that I was involved in about 10, 15 years ago. Played a few shows. I came up with the name, the logo, all that stuff, but it just fell apart after a couple of shows. The drummer moved to the East Coast and nobody felt like doing it after that. So I am putting together a new Black Crows tribute. It's going to be called Remedy,
Uh,
tribute to the Black Crows.
now, is this the same band that I remember seeing on Facebook years ago? There's another.
You may have. We did
Yeah,
a show at the Coach House.
maybe that's okay.
We did a show at the Brixton up
Okay.
in Redondo Beach.
How long ago
And
that
I
was?
think we
Yeah.
did one more in Orange County at the OC Tavern.
Wow.
Um, and I have assembled an amazing cast of characters, and we are working in earnest. I, of course, will be playing the role of Chris Robinson. I will be singing.
Mhm.
We have I can't wait to introduce the rest of
And
the
do you have a guy that will play your brother Rich that you'll be beating up with
Yes.
on stage?
Yes. And I can tell you this. If people want to go and care enough to do the homework and find out before I actually tell you who it is, I'll tell you how you know. This person was once an Ace Frehley in Kissed Alive. And he is the most bluesy player I've ever met. And he actually played for a few shows in Jason Lee and Friends
Wow.
prior to joining Kissed Alive. There is footage of him on stage with me in Kissed Alive or in Jason Lee and Friends, just a couple of shows, I think.
Yeah.
But he was a member of Kissed Alive. And I can tell you that when people see him and I together, they're going to understand what's going on. We
Okay.
I feel like he's my musical soul brother, anyways, and we go way, way back. I've known this guy since I was playing drums with an LA instrumental guitar player named Ronnie North,
Yeah.
who I know you are aware of.
I know Ronnie. He's a cool guy. Yeah.
Yes, when I was playing with Ronnie, this guy opened up for us.
Okay.
And I won't tell you who he was yet because I want to wait and
Well,
talk about everybody.
I will say this, Jason, before we end tonight's episode, that when you get ready to launch that, I'd love you to come back on the show here with some of your bandmates. And
Absolutely, I will. When people see it, they're going to know what's up. I'll tell you one quick story about this guitar player, okay? About the balls and the southernness of this guy because he has southern roots, just like the Black Crows.
wow.
So we're in the hallway, Ronnie North's band, his trio, and we're waiting to go on. And the opening guitar player is coming in, and the opening guitar player is coming in, and he's walking down the hallway. He's got his head down. He's
Wow.
carrying his guitar, right? Walking on down the hallway. And he just walks past us. And my guy, Ronnie North, had a reputation for being a fucking hot shot, and rightfully so. He was I was a better drummer for playing with that guy. He was one of the best guitar players I've ever played with. And
Wow.
people knew it. And he wasn't shy about showing you how good he was. If you got the chops, let people see him. So
right.
We're in the hallway, we're getting ready to go on, and we're the headliner for the night, right? In walks this guy who's singing and playing guitar for the opening act. He just keeps his head down, walks like this, doesn't break stride as he walks by us, doesn't even make eye contact, just keeps walking by. And he goes, out of the side of his mouth, he just goes, I hope you all brought your A game tonight.
I love that. I love that.
This 18-year-old kid, the ball's on him. And him and I have been friends ever since, man.
Yeah, yeah. As we're talking here, besides bringing on your bandmates, I tell you, I would love to have Ronnie come on as a special guest in one of these episodes in the future. I think.
I'd love it. Why don't we call him up? Let's have him join in.
Okay, yeah, that's great. And before we wrap up tonight's episode, I just want to say, Def Leppard, through the years they became known as this band that kind of had an unlucky streak so much that Steve Clark dies, Rick Allen loses an arm, Rick Savage gets this thing where his baseball Ball's palsy or something. And
Yep. Bell's palsy.
Joe Elliott's joked over the years that John Bon Jovi will not get in a car with him because he's afraid he might get killed in a car accident or something.
Well, there's two sides of the story, and we joke about it, but in all reality, you could look at it in two different ways. Okay,
Sure.
you could look at it as, wow, what a streak of shitty luck those guys have had over the years, or you can look at it as, geez, those guys are a model for persevering through hard times and still not just succeeding, but exceeding every expectation you could ever set and going on to become bigger and bigger. And now they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, they're amazing.
When you have a 40-plus career, you're bound to go through those kind of things. It's called life. And so
drummer loses his arm, so what? He keeps playing drums.
Yeah. But he persevered. I tell you, not just for his own career, but think of because of him losing his arm, think of what that's meant for, other drummers that have gone through the same thing, electronic drumming, the technology.
And that's why I think also their fans are so loyal and dedicated because those guys lead by example. Hey, we're not going to give up. That guy, I'm not going to tell him he's fired. Are you going to tell him he can't do it? All right, so let him play. That's how you do it.
It's his call.
That's how you do it. You stick by the guy.
Well, Jason Lee, this was a lot of fun. We're going to take a little bathroom break, and I'll see you in about 15 minutes for part 2, which we're going to be talking about the 30th anniversary of Kiss Alive 3. See you then, my friend.
All right, man. Take care. We'll see you all soon.
Bye-bye.